who is conversing with Porphyry on questions that Porphyry had sent to him. The last time we discussed principles of the lotus, and so we'll go further. For everything belonging to the lotus is seen to be circular, viz., both the form of the leaves and the fruit, and circulation is alone allied to the motion of intellect, which energizes with invariable sameness in one order and according to one reason. So firstly, he gives a general description of the lotus flower and any fruit that comes from the lotus flower. And now he's using the lotus as a metaphor for intellect. And this is the divine intellect, the intellect that has gained insight into the nature of divinity. And this kind of intellect is not swayed by changes in the world or expressions of egoism or the arising of philosophies that are untenable from the perspective of an intellect that has been imbued with insight based upon mystical experience. So there's nothing in the world that can dissuade or move the circular intellect. But the God, meaning when he says the God, he's talking, the Kemetic term for the God is paneter, meaning the supreme, transcendental. But the God is established by himself and above a dominion and energy of this kind, venerable and holy, super expanded and abiding in himself, which his being seated is intended to signify. So recall we discussed the lotus and I gave a verbal description of uh, Nefertem sitting above the lotus. And what he's saying is that this symbol is relaying the concept of the Paneter being an absolute reality, transcendent of the circular intellect. So it's something apart from intellect. It is more subtle than intellect. It is something that that is expanded beyond intellect. So expanded beyond the mind, beyond the unconscious, and that it itself has its own self-existent reality. So it doesn't rely on anything else for its existence. And if you have a spiritual philosophy of that, you find in the ancient Kemetic literature, you don't find ideas of God being angry or jealous or heaping out judgment for people who don't believe in it and things like that. Because from a mystical perspective, the divine is transcendental of all human reason. And in Orthodox religions, in the Western religions, uh, the 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 God is, what they're referring to as God is imbued with human emotions and feelings. And from a mystical perspective, that is untenable, because the divine is transcendental of cognition, of mind, of feeling, of mind and senses altogether. It is self-contained within itself. And this idea of the transcendental divine that is self-luminous is also comes across in the philosophy of Goddess Net. So since the transcendental is beyond name and form, all names and forms that are related to it are merely what you can say as descriptors. But these descriptors cannot describe it the way it really is, because these descriptors are coming through mind and intellect. But if you have a um, uh, an intellect that is illuminated by spirit consciousness realization, your descriptors are uh, reflective of that higher reality. So that higher mystical reality. So in writing of spiritual texts, you will not find that Paneter is imbued with human emotions and human reason. It is something that's transcendental of all human reason. And it abides within itself. So it doesn't uh, rely on anything else for its existence. However, everything relies on it for its existence. For example, if you go to a movie and before the movie starts, you see a blank, you see the screen, and nothing happens, but you just see a screen. Now, when the movie starts, the projector projects what is imprinted on the film onto the screen. But if you don't have a screen, you can't perceive the images of the movie. So the screen is what essentially upholds the images and the action and the drama that's occurring in the movie. Similarly, the transcendental reality, the paneter, is the screen upon which not only human activity, but the activity of the universe is being supported by. So the activity of the universe is being projected on the screen of spirit consciousness. And it is the spirit consciousness that upholds the activities of time and space, temporal existence. When the God also is represented as sailing in a ship, it exhibits to us the power which governs the world, as therefore the pilot, being separate from the ship, presides over the rudder of it. Thus, the sun, having a separate substance, governs the helm of the whole world. And as the pilot directs all things from the stern, giving from himself a small principle of motion to the vessel, thus also, by a much greater priority, The God indivisibly imparts supernally from the first principles of nature the primordial causes of motions. These particulars, therefore, and still more than these, are indicated by the by the God sailing in a ship. So I'm going to pull something up. Not this. Okay, do this. So this is from the temple of Heteru at Dendera. And here you have the boat. And the boat is one of the central features of ancient Egyptian Kemetic mystical religion, philosophy. And here you have the boat and the divinity in the boat. You actually have three divinities in the boat. I'm not going to say who they are yet. We'll do a more detailed examination next time. And the boat is sailing over the primordial waters. And here you have the same divinity in the center of the boat. You have standing in front of the boat on a shrine or sitting on a shrine. And then you have these four divinities. And these four divinities relate to the forces of nature that emerge from the primordial waters. And we'll discuss that next time. I don't want to discuss it now because this image can take up to 4 hours to discuss in full detail, even more than 4 hours. You can take up a whole month discussing this one image alone because of all the principles that are connected to it. But the point that Abamun is making, remember, he started out this discourse talking about symbols and images of the divinities. So the point that he is making is that within the images of the divinities, that there's a mystical philosophy that is contained within these images. These are not just random things that people put here. These are designed by priests and priestesses to convey a certain mystical philosophy. And so he's saying that the image, the divinity in the boat, represents the god in the boat represents the principle from which time and space existence flows, and we'll talk more about that next time. So, and you see here, if we pan out, you see all of these images. All of these images are related to the mystical philosophy. You see here the prt giving an offering to this goddess and this divinity behind. And this actually is a set. Goddess a set. You can tell from the hieroglyphic inscription. Here's her name. And the you see the images are also conjoined with hieroglyphs, text. And so this is a whole mystical philosophy that is being expressed. These are not just random things that are put here for the ego of a pharaoh or anything of the sort. So when we come back next time, we can't do a full treatment of this image because it's long. It's actually very long. It actually can take 4 months, I would say, discussing this one image at least. So when we come back, I'll pull out the important points that Ab Amon is making relating to the image in his statement, the statement that he makes here of the primordial causes of motions. And these particulars, therefore, and still more than these, are indicated by the god sailing in a ship. We'll touch on some of those elements that goes beyond the particulars, the primordial causes, but we'll focus on the primordial causes because that's what Ab Amon is trying to convey to Porphyry. And this idea, it exhibits to us the power which governs the world. And you'll see how that relates to this image. The powers that govern the world, you'll see how that relates to this image. And we'll talk about some of those powers that he's referring to and give you a good look at the image before we go. Okay, dua everyone. And dua for everyone who made this devotional possible this morning. Duadra, 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 capita. Amao indra net pet. Anguja sene. Arine teru. Duadra. Hitet.